He knew she was lying even before he opened the door. The scent was wrong. Not her perfume, the one he'd given her for their anniversary, with notes of jasmine and something warm, almost homey. No. Today it was something sharp, cloyingly sweet, foreign. And far too heavy, as if she were trying to mask something else. Sweat. He stood in the hallway, still wearing his coat. Behind him, the silence of the apartment. Ahead, the murmur from the kitchen, a sizzling pan, running water, a soft laugh. A laugh? At 6 in the evening, when she usually came home looking as if the whole world had collapsed onto her shoulders. "Hi," she called out without coming in. "Dinner's almost ready." He walked slowly into the kitchen. She stood at the stove wearing that blue apron with white polka dots, the one he'd given her for her birthday. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, cheeks lightly flushed. On the surface, everything seemed normal. But he knew. He felt it. "You're home early," she said, stirring the sauce without looking at him. The meeting was cancelled. She nodded, as if that explained everything. But he saw her fingers tremble, just for an instant. It was enough. Their names were Mark and Emily. They lived in a suburban house with red roof tiles and a neat garden where Emily planted tulips every spring. 12 years of marriage. No children, no debts, no fights, at least, none that neighbors, friends, or even their parents ever saw. He worked as an engineer at a medical device company. She coordinated events for a charitable foundation. Respected careers. Respected people. A respected couple. But respect is a fragile fabric. And once a hole appears, even a tiny one, everything begins to unravel. He first suspected something 3 weeks ago. She came home an hour later than usual, claiming a donor meeting ran late. But her phone showed no missed calls. No messages. And in her eyes, not exhaustion, but excitement. Faint, almost imperceptible, yet he recognized it. He remembered that look from their earliest dates. He didn't ask. Not because he trusted her, but because he feared the answer. Then came the small things, new shoes, an unusually short skirt, the scent of a stranger's cologne on her scarf. A gift from a colleague, she'd said. He didn't ask whether the colleague was a man or a woman. He watched. Stayed silent. Waited. And now today. That scent. That laugh. That quiet confidence in her movements, as if she'd already won. He sat at the table. She served shrimp pasta, his favorite dish. She rarely cooked it. Too much trouble, she always said. But today, no hesitation. "You look tired," she said, pouring wine. "Yeah," he replied. "Long day." She smiled, the warm, caring smile that once made his heart race. He took a sip of wine. Didn't mention it was too warm. Didn't say the shrimp were oversalted. Didn't say he felt something inside him breaking. He didn't sleep that night. She breathed evenly, deeply. Slept like a child. He lay beside her, staring at the ceiling, thinking, how can she? Not how she could betray him, but how she could look him in the eyes, cook dinner, touch his hand across the table, and think of someone else. Of him. He didn't know who he was. Didn't know how long it had been going on. But he knew one thing, he wouldn't forgive her. He couldn't. Forgiveness is for those who believe love matters more than truth. He believed in truth. The next morning, he woke earlier than usual. She was still asleep. Quietly, he went to her office, the room she called my sanctuary, and rarely let him enter. Too many papers, she'd say. You'll mess everything up. But today, he wasn't afraid of making a mess. He knew what to look for. Not love letters, she wouldn't leave those. Not photos, too risky. But there had to be something. People always leave traces. He started with her laptop. The password, their wedding date, of course. He logged in. Email, clean. Browser history, deleted. But in the trash, he found a recently deleted message. Not from a lover. From a hotel. We confirm your reservation under the name E.R. for October 24th. Thank you for choosing our hotel. Today was October 22nd. He closed the laptop. His hands didn't shake. His heart beat steadily. He felt a strange lightness, as if he finally understood the rules of the game. That same day, he left work early. Bought a train ticket to the neighboring city, where the hotel was. Reserved a room under his own name. Not for one night. For 3. He didn't know what he'd do, but he knew he had to be there. On that day. At that hour. He didn't want a scene. Didn't want shouting, broken dishes, or throwing her out. He wanted her to understand. To feel the same emptiness he did. The same pain, not loud or dramatic, but quiet, deep, like poison slowly eating away from within. He returned home. She was already in the kitchen, making soup. Smiling. "You're so calm today," she said. "Just slept well," he replied. He hugged her. Inhaled the scent of her hair. Still foreign. October 24th. A rainy day. Gray skies, as if the heavens themselves knew something irreversible was about to happen. He arrived at the hotel by noon. His room, 312. Across the hall, 314. That's where she was supposed to go. He didn't call. Didn't ask. Just sat by the window, watching the parking lot. And waited. At 3:47 p.m. Her car pulled in. The black Toyota Camry they'd bought together 5 years ago. She stepped out in a black dress. No purse. Just a small clutch. She glanced around quickly, nervously, and entered the hotel. He didn't move. 20 minutes passed. Then 10 more. He didn't know whether to go there. But suddenly, his door opened quietly. He turned. A man stood in the doorway. Mid-40s. Athletic build. Expensive jacket. A face Mark recognized from photos on her phone. A colleague. The foundation's director. Jason. "Hey," Jason said, clearly surprised. "I didn't know you'd be here." "I didn't know you'd be here either," Mark replied calmly. Jason hesitated, then stepped forward. "Look, it's not what you think." "What do I think?" Mark asked. "She told me you two, you've grown apart. She feels alone. And you decided to comfort her? In a hotel room." Jason looked down. "I don't want to destroy your marriage." "Then stay out of it," Mark said quietly. "And leave." Jason stood another second, then turned and walked away. Mark went to room 314 and knocked. She opened the door. Saw him, and turned pale. "Mark, what are you doing here?" "I came to take you home." She was silent. Then whispered, "You knew all along?" "A long time." "Why didn't you say anything?" "What would you have done if I had?" She didn't answer. He took her hand, not roughly, just took it, and led her out. "At home," she cried. Not sobbing, quietly, holding back. Sat on the couch, arms wrapped around herself, as if trying to hold together what was already gone. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said. "It just happened." "Nothing just happens, Emily, especially not in a marriage. You're always at work. We barely talk." "Did you ever try talking? Or did you just decide it was easier to find someone who would listen?" She lowered her head. "I don't know what to do." "I do," he said. He went to the bedroom closet, pulled out a suitcase, and packed her essentials, passport, toiletries, phone. "You're leaving?" she asked, alarmed. "No. You are." "But where?" "To him. If he listens so well." She stood up. "Mark, please, let's talk. Let's try to fix this." "You can't fix what's been hollowed out from the inside," he said. "You made your choice. So did I." He set the suitcase by the door. "You have 1 hour. Then I'll call a cab." She looked at him as if seeing him for the first time. In her eyes, not anger, not resentment. Fear. And maybe even respect. She left at 7 that evening. Without words. Without goodbye. Just closed the door behind her, quietly, almost gently. He stayed alone in the house that had once been their nest. Everything in its place. Tulips in a vase. Her favorite mug on the shelf. Photos on the wall, them in the mountains, on the beach, by the Christmas tree. He didn't take them down. Didn't change anything. Because revenge isn't destruction. Revenge is calm. It's the ability to remain yourself, even after betrayal. A week later, he received a letter from a lawyer. She was filing for divorce. No claims. No property disputes. Just an end. He signed the papers and sent them back. A month passed. Then another. He started morning runs. Got a cat gray with green eyes. Began reading books he'd put off for years. Sometimes dined alone, but now it wasn't torture. Just dinner. One day, he ran into her at the grocery store. She stood by the coffee aisle. Looked tired. Older. They nodded to each other, no malice, no regret. He didn't ask how she was. Didn't ask if she was happy. Because he knew, happiness after betrayal is an illusion. Truth always remains. Revenge isn't a scream. Not a punch. Not broken dishes or public shame. Revenge is staying whole. Not becoming the person you hate. Walking away from pain, not by running, but by stepping forward. He no longer thought of her every day. But sometimes, in the evenings, when he sat on the porch with a cup of tea, he remembered that dinner. That scent. That laugh. And he knew he'd won. Not because she left, but because he stayed.